Hi there, my name is Hart Honickman, and I'd like to introduce a new pattern of fingerboard markers that I've developed for guitars that are tuned in all-fourths tuning. So first of all, before I get started, what is all-fourths tuning? All-fourths tuning is a tuning pattern wherein each string is tuned to the perfect fourth relative interval above the adjacent lower pitched string. So for example, let's say you have a guitar where the lowest pitched string, so the string here, is an E. Then in that case, the all-fourths tuning pattern for this guitar would include strings tuned to an E, A, D, G, C, and F. This is actually really similar to the standard tuning pattern, except that in standard tuning, we include a major third relative interval between the third and second strings of the guitar. And so as a result, these highest two strings, the first and second strings, wind up being tuned a semitone lower than they would be in all-fourths tuning, or in the tuning pattern that I just mentioned before. All-fourths tuning has been embraced by a few prominent guitarists, including Tom Quayle, Alex Hutchings, and Ant Law, and it's my understanding that Alan Holdsworth actually spoke really highly of it as well. I don't think he ever actually adopted it or embraced it per se, but I believe it was a concept that he really liked anyway. In any event, all-fourths tuning makes it easier to visualize relative intervals on the fingerboard because each relative interval can be visualized as a shape that remains constant at any position on the fingerboard. So what I mean by that is, let's say I have a root note here, and relative to that root note, I find a major third. So this shape here, the root and the major third, that shape stays the same shape whether I move it from string to string or I move it from fret to fret, up and down the neck. That's not true in standard tuning. In standard tuning, that shape stays the same to a point, but once you start bridging over that major third interval we were talking about, the shape changes. And so you wind up having to memorize all these different shapes. That's where the cage system comes from. You have shapes that change depending on where the root note is, or which string the root notes are on, I should say. Whereas in all-fourths tuning, it doesn't matter. We can move that same shape up and down string to string to any string, and it stays the same. This significantly reduces the amount of memorization required of the guitarist. The benefits of this concept, which are many, are explained very clearly and thoroughly by Tom Quayle. I love his explanations, and they can also be really efficiently utilized with the help of Tom Quayle's app, which he calls Solo. It's a really cool app. I highly recommend it to any guitarist, regardless of which tuning system you use. It's really cool because it helps you to sort of learn and catalog in your mind what these relative intervals look like. He calls them intervallic functions on the guitar, and if you know where all your root notes are, you can very quickly learn how to do a lot of really cool stuff. And so I highly encourage really any guitarist to look it up. It's really cool. Standard tuning typically encourages the musician to memorize and visualize large six-string shapes and index these shapes at a particular fret. So, for example, if we're playing with the pentatonic scale, let's say the minor pentatonic scale, and I want to play an A minor pentatonic, I'm not using a little small subset of the pentatonic scale usually. Usually what we're taught is to think of the entire six-string version of that minor pentatonic box, and we fit that whole box onto the fifth fret if we want it to be an A minor pentatonic, because the fifth fret, that's an A, and so that box fitting over the A is going to give us the A minor pentatonic shape. And furthermore, we have the other positions of the pentatonic scale that form around that box, and we have to memorize where all those need to be indexed to, based on what frets they need to fall onto in order for them to still form part of that A minor pentatonic scale. So you wind up with these huge fretboard-sized shapes that we're sort of sliding up and down the neck and fitting onto fret numbers. So it's not surprising then that the guitar has evolved to include fret or fingerboard markers that help with rapid identification of fret numbers, thus allowing musicians to quickly and accurately position large shapes for chords, scales, arpeggios, etc. at the correct fret number. Conversely, when all-fourths tuning is employed, the musician tends to think more in terms of much smaller shapes, usually spanning only 3 to 4 strings and usually maybe 4 to 5 frets, usually only plus or minus an octave kind of thing. And so these small shapes are typically indexed at a desired root note that could reside on any one of the strings of the guitar. Therefore, it's crucial for the guitarist to be able to quickly find a desired root note on any string in any region of the neck. With conventional fingerboard markers, this requires a great deal of memorization. However, I would like to propose a new pattern of fingerboard markers that eliminates this need, which I'll explain very shortly. As most musicians are aware, the black keys on a piano represent the sharps and flats, and the white keys represent the natural notes. Since the black keys are arranged in alternating groups of 2s and 3s, it's easy to memorize which natural notes surround each of these groups, thus facilitating immediate identification of any note anywhere on the keyboard. So if you find a pair of black keys on the piano, so 2 black keys beside each other, you know that that pair of black keys is going to be surrounded by a C, a D, and an E. Similarly, if you find a trio of black keys on the piano, 3 black keys near each other, you know that the trio of black keys is going to be surrounded by an F, a G, an A, and a B. I propose that the black keys can be marked everywhere on the fingerboard of the guitar as well. Now, strictly speaking, this isn't an entirely new idea. I have seen guitars mark the black keys on the guitars, but I've only ever seen it in the context of guitars that are set up in standard tuning. However, in the case of standard tuning, this tends to just kind of make the fingerboard look a little bit like an incoherent mess without really any kind of a clear, consistent pattern. So one might gain some temporary insights from marking the fingerboard this way, and it might help the guitarist to sort of learn the notes on the fingerboard better, but I can't imagine that one would want to permanently mark the fingerboard that way, because I don't imagine that it's something that's really going to be integrated into your playing, where you're really thinking about the black keys while you're playing on a guitar in standard tuning. At least I wouldn't imagine so. Conversely, if we mark all of the black keys on a guitar that's set up in all fourths tuning, something actually really cool and interesting happens. You wind up with a really elegant pattern of these sort of bars that emerge on the fretboard. Now, if you just mark them with bars, I find that it's a little bit hard visually to kind of make use of it. So I've developed these sort of stylized shapes. You can imagine they're basically like bars, but I'll explain in a minute why I've shaped them like this. But just to look at the pattern first, what you can see here is this is one full version of a shape that I'm talking about. So it's kind of like an F shape, sort of reminiscent of the F holes in a semi-hollow or hollow-bodied electric guitar. And this shape repeats itself all over the fingerboard. So you can see here, there's just the tip of one here, and then half of one, a full one, and then this one here, and this one here, and then the pattern begins again down here, and then it moves up a bit more, up a bit more, and then the tip of it, and then again over here, we have the beginning of one here rather, a little bit more, it moves up more, and so on. And so what you wind up with is this kind of diagonal progression of these bars moving down and across the fingerboard sort of diagonally. So it is actually something that's a repeating pattern. You can really wrap your head around it, and you can find, you can intuitively find your way around this pattern. Having established what my markers look like, I'm going to now demonstrate how easy it is to find the notes around them. So first of all, we can liken these markers to the black keys on a piano and apply the same patterns that pianists apply. So in the vicinity of each adjacent pair of black keys, we have a C, a D, and an E, like I said before. And in the vicinity of each trio of black keys, we have an F, a G, an A, and a B. Now, if we combine all that together, we can write out the notes that surround each one of these full marker shapes. And so you can see here that on the bass side of each marker, we have an A, D, G, C, and F. And on the treble side of each marker, we have a B, E, A, D, and G. And once you memorize that, you can find the note anywhere on the fingerboard immediately, just by finding a black key, or the black marker, if you will, that suits the note that you're looking for. So if I'm looking for a D, then I know I'm looking to be either to the right of this curly bracket or to the left of this curly bracket. So basically I'm looking to be inside of curly brackets or inside of parentheses. If I'm looking for a G, then I'm looking to be here, like either at the tip, on the bass side of this middle point, or on the right side of that tip there, the treble side of that tip there rather. If I'm looking for an A, I'm looking either to be on the treble side of one of these center marks, or I'm looking to be on the bass side of this little tail here. So on and so forth. You can find these patterns and you can very quickly memorize exactly where every note is. If I want to find a D, 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 D. If I want to find a B is going to be there, there, there. If I want to find an A, there's an A there, there's an A there. You can pick it up really quickly. I'm not memorizing anything other than the notes that surround each one of these markers. So I can certainly appreciate that highly accomplished guitarists such as Tom Quayle, Alex Hutchings, Ant Law, and so on have thoroughly memorized the locations of every single note at every position on the fingerboard. I know that. I've seen their YouTube videos. I know that they don't think at all about where the notes are. They just know. However, from my experience, such thorough memorization is not typical for most avid recreational guitarists. It seems to me that most guitarists have memorized the notes in some key regions of the fingerboard, but they're left with substantial voids in their memorization of the fingerboard. And that's not just for beginner guitarists. I mean, I have friends that have been playing guitar for 20, 25 years. I've been playing guitar for 25 years. And I feel like most of us, we have a lot of the fingerboard memorized, but we wind up with pockets that you sort of have to, well, wait a minute, if this is a C, then maybe, okay, then I can go octave from there, and we can sort of infer what notes are in our blind spots, if you will, but that doesn't work well when you're trying to play lead, when you're trying to actually play a song, and it also just doesn't seem necessary to me. If you're playing in standard tuning, then yes, you have to do memorization. It's just not practical to make markings like this. But for guitarists who choose to make the leap into all fours tuning, and I think that it is a worthy leap, we're fortunate to have the ability to mark our fingerboards differently and to mark it in a way that, in my opinion, is not unsightly, but it basically eliminates the need to do the memorization of notes in a similar way that it eliminates the need for us to memorize all these different shapes for different inversions, or all these different shapes for different scale positions. All the benefits that Tom Quayle and Alex Hutchings and Ant Law discuss in their videos, where they talk about how great all fours tuning is, in a similar kind of way, it also eliminates the need to memorize notes, provided that you're willing to decorate your guitar a little bit differently. Playing in all fours tuning, I think it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. But it's a little bit of a lonely way to play guitar, because most of the material that's out there for learning how to play guitar and most of the other people that you're going to jam with just don't play that way. And I would love to see more people start to pick it up. I would love to have more people to play with who play the same way, so that we can start to trade ideas and learn from each other a little bit better. And I think that one of the barriers to entry in playing all fours tuning is you really do have to memorize the whole fingerboard. You really do have to know where every root note is, or else it just doesn't work. And now you don't have to memorize it. I just think it's simply not necessary if you're willing to do this. And these are custom printed vinyl stickers. Any vinyl sticker printing company, you can go online, it costs 25, 30 bucks or whatever to get something like this printed up. They go on the fingerboard, they don't damage the fingerboard. These ones are designed for going on painted drywall, so they can peel right off, they won't do any damage. I think they look nice. I did my best to try to sort of make it look like a blonde wood color, although I know it's not perfect. My intent with this was for this to be temporary. I do actually plan to go and get a custom neck made with custom inlays. It's going to cost me a fortune, but I'm excited about it. Regardless, this is by no means, it doesn't have to be temporary. Like I could totally play this guitar like this for years and be happy. The stickers don't get in the way of my playing at all. They don't rub off, they don't peel. I've been playing it like this for a while now, and it's fine. So anyway, I welcome any feedback. Please just try to keep it positive. Obviously constructive criticism is welcome, but let's keep everything happy. And I look forward to seeing some more people playing in all fours tuning. Thanks, and have a good day.